Hello everyone, Don here with the next progress report on the Corsair. Okay, so last week I didn't get to put up any videos. I ended up doing some work over the weekend. We got hit with some more snow and I had problems. I went to get the snowblower out and it started, died, wouldn't restart. So I had to fix that by a set of points for it, but it turned out it was one of the magnets on the flywheel had broken loose and slid over. They're just glued in, so I had to re-glue it in with some JB weld. So I got it running up again, but that took a little while to tear apart and fix. So I ended up did just a little bit of work on this. I was trying to work on the exhaust to get that finished up. So this weekend I come out here and did a bunch in the front. I'll show you, and then I was working on the exhaust. So as you recall, I went and bought this piece of 5-inch stainless for be like a semi-exhaust pipe. It's kind of belled out on this end to fit over another piece, but it's 5-inch OD. So this is the little gizmo here I've come up with. I was just going to make it kind of a can. It's only going to be a 12-inch piece long, and the exhaust will go into it like this with this 2-inch, but it'll go in. Essentially go in like this. So it'll go into the middle. Alright, so what I ended up doing is made this one here. As you can see, it's got 2 spirals. Looks like an auger. It works out really neat how when you cut the disc and weld them together and you put them in there and spiral them, they take on this natural concave little curve to it. So what the idea is, you can see they both splay outwards. So this exhaust from the manifold I have on the airplane is going to come in like this. It'll probably be, because the way these outlets come, the pipe's got to be like this when they come out. This is a piece of 2-inch. I'll be using 1 3/4, but the 2-inch will actually come in here. So the other ones will come out 1 3/4, come out on this way and this way. So they got to line up with this opening right here. This will be right up tight against an end inside. It'll be butted up against there. So as the exhaust gas flows through here, comes out around through here, and it'll run right into the outlet pipe and outward. So it deadpans there. And I will be drilling a series of holes in this pipe all the way. I'll be putting holes all through this pipe. So, but the idea is the exhaust is going to come in through here. My original idea was to bring it in just like this. So what it will do is it will split it 2 ways, spiral around, come out this way. The ends will be capped. They'll be up against the caps on the end of the tube. But because of where these ended up coming out, I tried to do just 2 discs, but I couldn't get enough to make it stretch that far. So what it's going to kind of end up looking like is probably going to come into here somewhere, into this void. And it'll come around, and the exhaust will hit there. Because with it this way, this will come in, basically it'll come in like this, and it'll go out over here. So somewhere in this range. Just so when these are set up, this has got to go out through this opening here on each end. And this one's going to come in. So they're both going to come in like this. They'll go in like this. They're not going to go in straight. They're going to go in at an angle like that. And they're going to come out with an angle like that. But these may be a little bit like that. This may look a little like that when it's done to get it. But essentially, when the exhaust comes in, it's going to come in like this. And the idea is it will hit there and split. So, and again, I'm just going to drill a series of holes through here so the exhaust can go in there and kind of move around and out. So, but the idea is to get that thing swirling. It'll go in there and just make this swirl and come out these pipes. So that's what I did there. So you can get a good look at that, how that worked, and you can see all this is 2.5 discs. I just cut out a big washer, split it, and made 2 of them and welded them together. And this is the half of one. That's where it's 2.5. I needed to add just enough to get back here to the end. And of course, that's flat. It'll be sitting flat when it goes out. So, but that's the idea. And we'll see what that sounds like and how that works. And this is a heavier gauge. This is, I can't remember what thickness this is. This is 60 thou. I think this was like 40 some thousandths. It's pretty thick. I thought it was a 16th inch, which this is 50 thou. So that's the end cap material. And then I've got one of the ends finished here. Let me set this down real quick. I got one of the ends finished. See, it's a little dished cap. And what I did is I cut a disc out of this piece at 50 thou. It's about just a little under 5.5 inches in diameter. And then I made this. Some scrap aluminums I had. This is from what was left over from making my propeller spacer. What I did is I bored it out 1/4 inch deep to basically the ID of this tube, which is 120 thousandths less than the outside, and then I allowed for another 50 thousandths on each side of this piece of metal, so it's another 100, about 220 thousandths smaller than the OD of 5 inches. And then I had this old propeller hub that I was able to turn down to the ID for this. It won't fit in there now because of the weld. But then I put it in the press and I cut a little recess in here for the diameter of the disc so it kind of set in there. And then I put that in on top of it, stuck it in my press and smashed her out. And then the legs were a little longer than I anticipated, so I chucked this back up in the lathe. And you can see the little grinding marks here from my cutoff wheel. And I just came in with a cutoff wheel and I trimmed off the excess. And then I pressed that in there and flushed it up and then just fuse welded all the way around. So it turned out really nice. So now I need to put this inside, measure the length so I can cut this off again, make it so nothing will be welded here or here, but when I cut the hole out for this pipe to come in, I'm going to weld this somehow, maybe drill a hole through the outside so I can come right in and spot weld it across that tab there. So I may have to weld a little piece of metal in there, but I need to lock this down so it doesn't spin inside. See if I can show you real quick. So it fits pretty good. It may not look like it fits right here because this end is belled out, but that's how it goes in there. It's probably going to be a little. This last washer was a little undersized, so there's some gap there, but that's not going to matter. The main thing is getting gas in there and getting her flowing and getting a nice little slinging action going on. So that's where I'm at with that, and I'm almost out of argon. I'm surprised I didn't run out, but my next step is to drop that in there, measure from there up to here, then give myself at least 1/4 inch material, cut it off, make another cap, drop that in there, and then weld it up, but only after I get these cut out. It's going to go in like that at straight in. So I have to cut that out before I weld that final end in. And another thing I did is I pulled my tail wheel out of the aircraft, and this is the new one. This is the spring out of the tail of the plane. So amazingly, this thing is pretty close to the same size. As you can see, it's probably just a little longer. If we line up the bolts on this, it's not that much of a difference. This is just I bolted this together just to make it rigid. But the way this works now is it does swivel because I've got those bearings in there, the needle bearings. So, but that was I was going to tinker with that a little bit. And there's my alternator. I took that off because I had to make a new alternator bracket. Well, I was digging around and found a forum called flyconvair.com. A guy that does the Corsair engines from the GM. It's a General Motors flat 6-cylinder air-cooled engine that was used in the late 60s in a Chevy car called a Corsair. And they convert them. They've been converting those things to aircraft use for for decades now. But he had this really small, he called it a generator, and showed it. It had a V-belt on it that wasn't pulley, that wasn't removable. It was only like a 20 amp generator, he called it. It's a permanent magnet generator, which requires an AC to DC rectifying regulator to regulate it at 12 volts, and it's real lightweight. So I looked them up because he didn't say where it was from. I guess you have to buy his manual to find out what it was for. Well, I did a search on eBay for permanent magnet generators, and it came up with generators that look like these alternators. Had the module on the side, where this one's the electronics are inside. But it was Japanese-made generators, but they're more for doing projects like your own wind generator, your little windmill to generate 12 volts DC. Well, anyway, those are 35 amps output. This is a 70 amp. Since I'm getting rid of the fuel injection, I don't need 70 amps anymore, because the only thing that needed the amperage on this was the fuel injection and all that stuff, even though it would never use that much either. But anyway, those things are only like $55, and they weigh 5.5 pounds is what the thing says. This weighs 10 pounds. So I'm going to shave almost 5 pounds off just by swapping this out. They do come with a V pulley, so I'll have to modify or take this one off to swap it over and get it lined up. But I've got a bracket drawn up. It's going to be basically a circle bracket like they had for that Corsair that used that smaller, and it's even smaller than the one I'm getting. But it turns out that's off of a John Deere tractor. It's a tractor generator. So I've got a bracket all drawn out for this pattern, but I'm not going to cut it out. I'll cut it out of like a piece of plexiglass like I always do everything else to see how it fits. So this one is probably wider than the one I'm getting because I know the body on the other one was only 4 inches in diameter from here to here, and this is probably closer to 6 inches. So this is going to be different, but it's still got to go in the same place. And it might be, I mean, it looks a lot like this. So I bought that. That's coming. And what else did I do? I finally got the Flyboys LED light kit. Just came in the mail yesterday. After, oh my God, almost 2 months. I ordered them back at the beginning of December. So it's been a good month and a half. These are my old NPN proximity sensors. I only threw these in here to show you the difference in size from this sun to the ones I got. I got 5 of these now. Look at those bad boys. But I think these are going to be too big. I did set up my ignition system in the house. I took the coil in, the spark igniter, and wired it all up, and it works great. But then I got to thinking about it, and it turns out that igniter is just a pair of transistors, which I mentioned before, but there's no dwell control, how long the coil is charged, and then before it can fire the high voltage. Second here. This is a part I ordered. It's a oil cap, a cap that I'm going to be using for my oil tank when I build the oil tank. These things are just so dirt cheap on eBay. So when I make the tank, that'll just get welded onto the top of the tank. It's got a nice little gasket in there. So I don't think this thing was $12 bucks. It was very cheap. Very cheap. Nice piece too for China. Those little kids in China are getting really good at making stuff. I tell you, their CNC quality these days is impeccable. It says it's 6061, but more than likely it's soft. So these worked. They work perfect, but there's no control of dwell, so I did a whole lot of searching. So anyway, back to the original thing here of what I got. These are all the instructions, and these are what the boards look like. Now this one is called a rocket. I think it's this one here that's, one of these is, I think it might be this one. I chose the rocket because it was the narrowest one they had. But my wingtips, because they're straight on the top, the wingtip comes out straight. and then the bottom is curved like this. So I thought I might be able to put it on like this, or whatever, or this one. I mean, either one of them can be the forward, what should be called forward facing, where that'd be looking forward at the airplane, and then this would be the outboard facing. But my wingtips are more like this. And then these can be shaved down some, because there's really nothing in here, but they've got them cut fairly close. So I'll see if they're going to work right, but they've got to go up into the tip of this thing somehow. I got to get out my template for this rib here. It's kind of small, but the idea is they could be clear up here, but they'd be more likely to look better, for up out in here. But you know, I'm stuck with this thickness here, so let's see what I can do. But one of these boards, there's two of each, came all the way from Australia. These are actually made in Australia. As you can see, they're called Fly LEDs. That's an outfit in Australia. They make these kits. And then Fly Boys is in Indiana, and they sell them. So they were out of one of these boards, and what took me months. Oh, looks like the dog's trying to come in. And then there's the little printed circuit board, controller board here. Second. Yeah, well, I'll leave it in there. But it comes as a kit. There's everything. That's all the components to put on the controller board. There's all the wire connections coming from each wingtip light. There's the control board, and there's the tail light. Just a standard looking tail light that you'd see on any airplane. That was $100 just for that. And then here's all the white LEDs for the strobe lights. These are for the wing lights. There's 12 of those, 6 on each board. Each one of these boards, these are the recognition nav lights, the red and green. So these would either all be red or all green. You got 6 on this board, and then the other board, you got 6 on that board. And then these are the big 10-watt white LEDs, which would be the strobe lights. Kit, that's for the red. There's the red LEDs, those tiny little bulbs. And then this one's the greens, and all the components for each color. A little strip of ribbon strip that ties these two boards together. You rip this thing in half because there's eight of them, and then they go into the little green blocks on these. So I'll be soldering this stuff all up probably on a day when it's too miserable to be going outside, and some heat sink paste. There's 2 of those. There's another one in the kit here. So I finally got those, so I can work on this in the house when the weather gets too crappy out. And right now the weather is crappy out. There's the dog. But that just fell today. My car was completely clean, so that just fell in the last hour. It's supposed to keep coming. Alright, so that's the lights, my oil tank, trigger. Oh, and I did a whole bunch of researching, and I found a ignition module that will control the dwell. It's a kind of a current limiting thing, but all you got to do is feed it a positive pulse that has a rising, falling square wave like this would generate. It will it triggers on the falling, but the pulse width on that doesn't matter because the little module takes care of that for you. It controls the pulse width based on the RPM and everything, even though there's no RPM signal. As you can see, I gutted the engine. Here's the harness, the whole harness out of the engine compartment. All of this is going to go. All of that. This is the only thing that's going to be left in the harness. 2 temp sensors, 1 oil, 1 coolant, and that sensor is oil pressure. There'll be a tack connection somewhere. There'll be a few wires, but most of this, as you see here, all this is going to be gone. This oil fill tube, that's going to be on the tank right up front. So the dipstick, I won't need the dipstick because I'm going to put, the tank is going to go right in here. Right in here. It's going to hang down. and I'll have a sight gauge in it so I can see the oil level, and then the cap will be on there somewhere to fill it from the front. So, and then what I've been doing the last day or so is this feed line for the oil originally came back to this connection here. That was a factory position. This plug with the thing in it had a factory oil pressure sensor right here. Well, I'm putting the alternator up here, and I'm redoing the bracket so it grabs this bolt hole up here and this bolt hole down here. It's going to come across there, and there'll have to be a spacer in here. And then that alternator I have right there, when I put it in bolted up, it lines up perfect. So all I have to do is put about a 1/2 inch spacer right here, and it's good. But the bracket's going to come clean up over here. It's going to have a lug in it to where with a pathway to tight tension the belt. So what I ended up doing is I ended up plugging this one from this one, and I took this plug out and this plug out, and I bought these oil pan drain plugs. They're 18 by 1.5 millimeter pitch thread, and I just put them in a lathe, drilled them, and tapped them for 1/8 inch pipe. So now I've got oil pressure to feed the gearbox, because this is all oil galley. This is all oil galley through here. This is oil galley. This is oil galley. That one's oil, and this one's oil. So you got 5 points. You can see I changed this one out, and this is the pressure sensor for the oil pressure. And then this one is going to be the oil temperature sensor. And then the water temp sensor went right here. So we're going to have a sensor there, sensor there, sensor there, and that's pretty much it. I did find a used Rotec TBI throttle body. It's the Mark 1 they call it. It's the one they made originally with separate, the regulator is external on it, the diaphragm control is external. And the new ones, that diaphragm is integral to the valve body now, throttle body. So, but they both work exactly the same. There's no difference between them other than that. So, but I got it for $450, you know, and they're $1,000 new for the Mark II. And it's the exact same. And it has a bunch of extra brackets and stuff because whoever had it on the engine, they just left all the stuff on there. So I got that coming. I got that alternator, that new generator. It's and the nice thing about those permanent magnet motors, generators, there's no brushes. It just works off of magnetic fields spinning. So there's no brushes to wear out. So that's one less thing to worry about. And it's, again, lighter weight and 35 amps. So I don't know. I'll probably keep this because if I take that out, I'd have to make another pattern for a smaller one. But I'll probably just use it. I mean, there's only going to be a handful of, probably less than 8 wires coming through there. Eventually, I put some landing lights in up here, landing light taxi light. I'd be able to run it in there, but I'll have more than half of those left over. Okay, and then I also got, I don't know if you can see it, but there's the little drip of oil on it right there. But that's the oil fitting I've been waiting on for almost as long as those lights. Finally showed up the other day. So the oil is going to come out of there through an elbow and come off into the bottom of the tank. And then again, this exhaust pipe is going to go into that tube, and then that tube's going to dump them out there. So, and this will be free all the time, but the exhaust will be on some hangers to, you know, just like the original one was. And then I still have to finish. I've got this all drawn and designed, but I got to go through and make some things for pocketing it all out and getting that finished up. So I think if there's anything else, the spinner, of course. Well, there's the intake manifold. So all this is going to be gone. This whole concoction is going to be gone. I'm going to make a new one. I'll make a flange. I've already got the tubes lined up to purchase for here. Say these are 1 3/4. They're just going to get welded onto some probably 1/2 inch flange that I'll cut out with my CNC. There'll be no injectors anymore. This will just be a 4-inch piece of tubing just like this, because I've got some of these left over. I'll weld one back together, and that'll be like the back end of the manifold here, and I can even put the dome on the front and lop it off, because that one I got coming is the only bad thing I don't like about it. It doesn't have a square attachment. It has the round one to fit like a Rotex type engine with a grommet, you know, hooks on like this. but I'll make an attachment to where it'll slip in there and clamp in place with a seal. But I can put the round ball on the front, round ball on the back, just make it long enough to get all 4 of these tubes in there, give me enough room for the alternator, and then the air filter will just go straight on the end of that throttle body. The throttle body can go horizontally, can go vertical, pointed down, you could angle it any angle. But the problem I'm going to have is my throttle cable comes up through straight here, and now the throttle's got to pull in and out like this. So I may have to buy a longer one or make a bell crank mechanism that when it push-pulls this way, it'll push-pull that out that way. But that's the throttle position sensor, the idle air bypass, all this stuff. I mean, I'll weigh that, but that's probably 20 pounds. And my new intake is just going to be half-inch piece there, these light tubes, light center section, that light throttle body. I'm probably going to shave, 10, 15 pounds just on that intake. And then I won't have any of that. The battery I'll still have. So that's kind of where I'm at. Last week I ended up driving all week long because I needed some extra money so I could buy a throttle body, and then I found that one and I snatched it right up. I was watching it for a couple of days and it was listed for $4.99. The guy came back with an offer for $4.49, so I went ahead and dropped the coin on that yesterday. So see how long that's coming out of Florida. It'll be a little while. So, also you can see I took the Canopy off. My friend did send the Canopy. It was supposed to be here Saturday, the 11th. It's not here. It's kind of lost in transit somewhere between Alabama and here. Just like everything else was. Everything I've ordered has been lost in the mail, and their excuse is, it's the weather. So, I don't know where it is. But I took it apart, so when I get it, I can either stick it over top of that one or more than likely put that over top of this one to see what the difference is in the profile. But it's pretty much ready to drop on there, line it up, trim it, and put it on. And then I'll guarantee I'll have to remake the trim that goes around it, because that one hopefully is going to have a much better hump in it. Where this one's it rounds down, but then it kicks out. It's got a flat spot here, and that one comes down. It starts right there, and it arches up and over. And I think it tapers just straight back more back here. So I'm pretty much guarantee you that these trim pieces aren't going to fit in. Oh, and then I did finally go in there and take out that mount over there. I unbolted it and I cut it out. Probably just going to end up putting some angle brackets in there and then bolt it straight through. But it'll be anchored to these longer ones. I'll just screw it in through the sides. And then a couple of those gauges that I won't be needing anymore, we're going to be taken out and swapped out for others. Like the high pressure fuel pressure gauge is not going to work. It's going to take just a small little pump. If I put a regulator on it all, it doesn't need a regulator. But those little pumps, the little clicker pumps like a Bendix or a, what's the other brand? The Aircraft Faucet. But people like Edelbrock make them now. They call them solid states. They're little clicker pumps. They only work on 4 to 7 psi, so you still wouldn't even need a regulator on that. So you can just pretty much plumb it in and have it. I got fuel pump switches on it anyway. So let me think. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to tell you. But yeah, it's a pretty simple looking motor when it's stripped down, and it's going to stay pretty clean. If I need to, I can reconnect these hoses up to a little heater plate behind that throttle body, but from what they say, those things don't have an icing problem. So I may be able to, I'm looking at possibly changing these, seeing if I can't possibly tap the hole in there and put in a actual fitting I can screw in or something. Otherwise I'd lop them off and weld it shut. I don't need this temp sensor anymore. There was a knock sensor bolted here, don't need that no more. Just got to get the ignition module worked out. And the only other thing is there won't be a rev limiter unless I buy some kind of aftermarket rev limiter for it. So, but this was nice at that, and that was of one of the original fuel lines. It was short and it worked perfect. I had to go buy these steel fittings and put in there. This one I had to tap. I had to drill it a little oversized. These have a 3/16 ID hole in it. I had to drill and tap it for a set screw because here's the where's the old fitting? There's the old fitting right there. I didn't want to stay with brass because I felt the brass, I've seen brass fittings break before, so I wanted steel ones because that's a pretty important oil line. If that thing breaks, you're going to be pumping oil out. But what I had to do is right there. There's a 1/16 orifice that I made and put inside of that one. So to make it easy, I just drilled the hole out to a little bigger size for a number, or a 6 millimeter by 1.0, I believe it was, which I had a nice brand new 6 millimeter tap, so I tapped it out 6 millimeter, put a steel set screw in there after I chucked it up in the lathe and drilled a 1/16 inch hole in it. So I washed it, cleaned it out real good, put some red lock, tied it on, put it in there and cranked her down. It's pretty tight. So, but that is you don't need flood oil in this, you just need spray oil. That goes in there and just kind of splatters and gets your bearings, the gears, and that's all it needs is a splash. And then the drain line will go back into the new oil tank. It has to go in kind of in the high side, let it fall down through, and then it'll be drawn out. So, alright, so that's what I've been up to. Just wanted to get this up tonight. Here's the temp sensors. There's one of them's for oil temp, and the other one is for coolant, cylinder, water temperature. So I got two of those, two temp sensors, and then the other third one is that oil pressure sensor that's on that unit right down there. So those are the three that stay, and the rest of this stuff is in. That's the ignition igniter box, fuel injectors, cam and crank sensors, and you got the one of these is idle air control, one's throttle body, that was coolant temp, the other two fuel injectors, and then the mass air meter harness. So all that's gone. So when I get done with this thing, it's probably going to be almost 20 pounds lighter in the nose. So the cowling, as you can see, I cleaned up the shop, did that this weekend too, swept everything out, because this place was a mess from cutting everything with that saw, cutting all that aluminum. So I got this back up here, and I can get back to work on this, get this stuff sanded down, and put some fiberglass on that to re-strengthen it, and the inside as well. The inside still, I think I might have sanded some of the inside, but repair that, repair this, and then get to work on cutting out the cowl flap material, which I brought over here. So I don't need this right now, but I still want to do it and make one just to see if I can do it, because then my friend, he wants to go to the Super Corsair, which had a teardrop canopy like a P-51 Mustang, so I can make him one of those too to replace the one he sent me there. So we kind of, like I said, did the swap. I made that spinner for him, and he sent me his canopy. So, all right, I think that's going to about do it. Threw the rudder on there just to get it out of the way. I kind of dusted the plane off, but yeah, it was a big mess in here. And I'm starting to think that I might try to make this tail wheel steerable, but I only want it to steer about 5 degrees. Because even on landing, if this thing touches down and you're a little crooked when you just, say it yaws a little bit just as it sets down, it may still want to try to do the same thing, but the wheel will be locked at this point, so it won't turn, and you'd still have a hard time bringing it back. But if I can make this just adjust 5 degrees left, right is all. 5 left, 5 right would be enough to keep, because it doesn't take much to move this thing. You move that thing a little bit and the plane just, it's all over the place. So this worked pretty good, but it came unlocked, and that's what caused the run off the runway. So I don't know if I got, like I said, I did say I was almost out of argon, and I mean, the needle just barely comes off the peg. So I might have enough to weld a couple more pieces on that muffler, but I'm sure I'm going to have to go get another one of those, so you're talking another $50 to replace that. Alright everyone, that's going to do her for this one. Again, one last look-see at this little contraption. Looks pretty cute, huh? I'll do another video before I finish it, but I'm gonna, like I said, drill a whole bunch of holes in that, perforate it. Small ones, you're talking nothing bigger than 1/8 inch. So just and that's all stainless. And it just fits right in there. Looks like an old grain auger for a farm. Just thought about that one night laying in bed, because I wanted the gas to come in and just kind of swirl around and then have an easier shot of getting out through the outlets, and then it made me think of this. So, alright, I'm going to take this stuff back in the house where it belongs. I don't need this for a while until I get around to making the tank. So again, this was just an old hub that was on my old gyrocopter when I was running a Volkswagen, air-cooled Volkswagen engine, and that was left over from making the prop extension for the Corsair. So I remembered I knew I had this, but I forgot about that, and I remembered. It's like, hey, I got that. So I had to cut it down to the size I needed to make that little end cap, because it's 5 inches, same size as this too, but this one's the inlet. You know, it's perfect size. Alright, that's going to do her. As always, I appreciate everyone taking the time to watch my videos. Feel free to leave any comments, questions, concerns, as always. Appreciate people watching the videos. So sorry it took me 2 weeks to get this one out, but a lot of things happening. The weather, the snow again is terrible, so I'll be out driving again tomorrow, but I ended up driving 5 days last week, so I didn't get to get out here and work on anything. So that's going to do it, everyone, and I will get back with you. Probably won't be till next weekend, because again, I'll be driving for the next 3 days. So, alright, hope everybody likes what they're seeing and hearing, and I will catch you guys on the next one. So for now, this is Dinah Dawn out.